important is rest? You know, if you look at any medical website, they'll all tell you that it's extremely important, I apologize, for us to get at least 7 to 8 hours of sleep, they've discovered. Sleep and rest is extremely important to the human body because certain functions happen while we are asleep. Our body repairs itself, it removes waste and toxins. It also helps our metabolism. Your metabolism is extremely important because without it, your body wouldn't be able to break down certain things that you eat, certain compounds that enter into your body, and make them into simpler compounds so that your body can expel them as waste or use them as energy. What's interesting about this is that the Bible has always shown that man ought to rest. However, sadly, my friends, in the division or ranks of Christianity being people who follow after Jesus Christ, there is a certain group of individuals who debate and say that we ought not to simply rest one day, but we ought to rest every day because Jesus is now our rest. And they use a certain portion of scripture, particularly around, I think it's Mark chapter 2, verses 23 to 28. And I'll preface it for you simply. During this discourse in scripture, Jesus and his disciples are walking through a grain field. And what actually happens is the disciples are grabbing some of the grain, they're rubbing it together in their hands, and they're popping some of it in their mouth, they're eating. The Pharisees see this, the Jewish leaders, and they contend with Christ. And they say, how is it that your disciples transgress and they break the law and they break the tradition? And Jesus simply points them to an error that they're overlooking themselves. And he reminds them of the patriarch David. He said, David did what was unlawful. He went into the sanctuary. And not only did he go in there, he took the showbread off the table that is intended only for the priest. Not only did he take it and eat it, but he shared it with other people. How is it then that the priests do not say anything? Or how is it, should I say, that the Pharisees don't look to this, is what Christ was attempting to show them. He said, David did what was unlawful, but you desire to complain about the disciples picking grain to eat. Then he expounds to them. He says, listen, the Sabbath wasn't made for a list of do's and don'ts. The Sabbath was made for you. The Sabbath is a joy and a blessing to you, according to Isaiah chapter 58. If thou would take thy foot from my Sabbaths and delight in it, call it blessed, holy of the Lord. He said, I didn't make it for that purpose. I made it for a blessing. He said, I didn't make you for the Sabbath. I made the Sabbath for you, not for you to make a list of do's and don'ts. He says, therefore the Son of Man is Lord also of the Sabbath. And this is where people get mistaken. They assume because Christ says that he's the Lord of the Sabbath, that he is the Sabbath. However, if you look at the two words, Sabbath comes from the word Shabbat or Sabbat, which means to cease from one's labor or to cause to cease and rest. Christ says, I am the Lord of the Sabbath, or I'm the Lord of ceasing from works. I'm the one who causes you to cease from your works or your rest on the Sabbath. Lord means one who has authority, one who is in charge of. He is in charge of the rest that he gave you. He said, I made this day for you. I am the one that's in charge of it because I want you to have it. What's ironic about it, though, is that the Bible clearly tells us in Genesis chapter 2, verse 2 and 3, that God sanctified that day, which means he made one day holy. He didn't make every day holy. He made one day holy. Solomon, who is written to be the wisest man who ever existed outside of Jesus Christ, says in Ecclesiastes chapter 3 that there is a time for everything and a purpose for everything that's done under the sun. Christ says that the Sabbath was made for you. He didn't say that I made every day a Sabbath or made myself a Sabbath for you. He said I made the Sabbath for you, which is a time. Like Solomon says, a time, and there's a purpose for that time. My friends, if we say that Sabbath is every day, and we are resting or supposed to rest every day, when God says that only one day is holy and only one day is set apart for a certain time, if you are resting every day, you are not holy, because you cannot make every day holy. Only God can sanctify and set apart a time. You are not holy. You're lazy. Because if you rest all the time, even medical science proves what happens when we rest too much. It has the same effect as if we aren't resting enough. And God knows in this stressful world, we need a day of rest. Truth is stranger than fiction. And no matter whether you like it or not, it always stays true. God bless you, my friends. Please join us and continue this conversation on Discord, as well as schoolforprophets.tv forums. I will leave a link in the description box. God bless you, but it is time to wake up.